Hey there, this is Kamal, and in this video I'm going to carry on with what we were learning in the previous video about Angular. So let's get started. Alright, so in the previous video we've seen how we can create components and how we can actually embed them anywhere we want, and also we've seen how we can use the routing module to make this dynamic and also showcase the pages based on the path that we provide in the routing module. So in this video we're going to carry on with that and we'll be creating the blog application. So if I go to my browser, so this is the blog application we'll be creating in the upcoming videos. So the design for this particular blog application is already done. So I'll be providing you with the source code for this particular design as well. So we'll not be creating this from scratch. Instead, we'll be using the design itself and we'll actually focus only on adding the logic to this. So the template is already available, and if you want, you can go to your GitHub account and search for packetcode, and on that you can go to the repository called as blog design. So I'll actually include this inside the video description as well. You can go there and actually click that link, and that should redirect you to this particular repository. In here, what you can do is that you can click on code and in that click on download zip. So let me click that as well. So once you have that downloaded, you should have a zip folder. So this is what we have. So let me right click on this and click on extract here. Alright, so now if you go to the folder, and that you'll have the blog page, the contact page and index page, and it also has some style and images, right? So now what we'll be doing is that we'll actually take the code from this particular thing and we'll actually add that to our own blog application, that is the Angular application, right? So let me open this particular thing inside of another VS Code. So let me right click here and click on open with VS Code. Alright, so now we have another VS Code instance. So now what I'll do is that I'll go to my index.html page, and in that, let's actually minimize everything that we have here. Alright. So the first thing that we need is Bootstrap and Font Awesome, right? So what I'll do is that since I already have the Bootstrap and Font Awesome links here, I'll not go to the Bootstrap website to copy it once again. I'll directly copy it from here. So I'll be copying Font Awesome as well as Bootstrap from here. Let's copy that and go to my Angular application. Then that, let's go to the index page. So I'll be going to my index page, and in the index.html in the head section, I'll place my Bootstrap and my Font Awesome files. Alright, so now apart from this, I'll not be including anything else. If you want, you can actually include the font as well, and also you can go to the style.css and copy the styling from here, and you can actually paste that styling inside the styles.css. So this styles.css is your global style sheet. So whatever styling you apply in here will be applied to every component present inside your page. Now apart from that, you also have the main.ts, which is your main TypeScript file. So this is similar to the JavaScript file that we generally have. So I'll explain what TypeScript is later on, but for now you can think of ts as JS for now. Okay, so let me close this off. Alright, so now what I'll do is that I'll actually create the navigation, right? So for that, what I'll do is that I'll go to my components folder. In that, I'll go to the header section, because this is where we'll be adding the navigation. Because right now, as you can see, we have the app root where everything is being rendered. If you go to the app root, you have the header, you have the router outlet, and you have the footer. So let me create the header. So in order to replace this with the content, what we have to do is that we have to go to app header, that is a header component.html. And this, let me remove this header works. Instead, let's add in the navigation. So I'll go back here, and here you can see inside the index page, you have the navigation, right? So let me copy the navigation. Let's go back and let's paste it inside the header. So let me save that. Now if I go back to my page, so let's go to the browser, and as you can see here, we have the navigation. So let me zoom out. Alright, so this is what we should have. Right. Now, as you can see here, the logo is not loading, so we'll take care of that. Apart from that, you have the home, blog, and contact, right? And you also have a search bar, which we'll not be worrying about. Okay, now let's also add the footer. So what I'll do is that I'll go back, I'll go to the footer, I'll copy the footer from here, and I'll go to my Angular application. Then that I'll go to the footer now instead of the header. And that, let's remove everything from the HTML page. So I'll select everything and paste in everything. Let's save that and go to the browser, and you'll see that we have the footer as well. If I remove this from here, you should go to the home page and we should have home works, right? So now let's close out the footer. We don't require that anymore. Let's go to the navigation, and in here, as you can see, we have to actually import the logo, right? And if you go to the navigation as well, you'll see inside that you have the A tag, and in that you have the image, right? Image tag, which is used for the logo. So the src or the source for that is given as /images packetcode logo, but we don't actually have that location right now. Instead, we have to add in the logo into our Angular application. The way that we do that is that in your folder structure in the left hand side, apart from the app folder, you have something called as assets, right? So this is where you'll actually keep in all your assets. So what I'll do is that I'll copy the image that we have for this. So if I go to my folder structure, so this is the folder structure, right? Inside that I have the image folder. Now inside this we have the logo.jpg. Let's also copy the pen.jpg since we want to use that later on. So I'll copy that. I'll go to my desktop. I'll go to the blog, that is Angular application. Let's go to src. In that we have the assets. Now inside the assets, let me create a new folder. In that folder, let's paste these files. So we have the images present inside the folder called as images, right? So let me go back to my Angular application. Now instead of this particular location, what I'll do is that I'll type in my own location, right? So I'll remove it from here. I'll type in assets / images / packetcode logo. Let's save that. If you want, you can look at your left hand side as well. You have the assets folder, and that you have the images folder, which we had just created, and that you have the packetcode logo.jpeg. Now if I go back to my browser once again, you'll see that we have the logo. Let's refresh that. Alright, so I think we have a spelling error here. It's assets, so ASSETS, not TES. Let's save that, and that should, render the logo. Similarly, let's create the home page and the blog page as well, because right now when you click on home, nothing is happening. When you click on blog, nothing is happening. So what I'll do now is that I'll actually link the navigation to redirect us to the home page, blog page, and the contact page, right? So before doing that, let's actually add the content into the blog page and the home page as well. So what I'll do is that I'll close off the header because we're done with the header. Let's also close off the index. Let's go to the components, and that let's go to the app component, right? So we're done with the header, we're done with the footer. Now we need to take care of this router outlet, that is the home page and the blog page, right? So let's also create another component for the contact page as well. So I'll be opening my terminal once again. In that, let's generate a new component. It's going to be contact, that is also present inside the components folder. So now as you can see, the contact folder has been created. Now what I'll do is that I'll go back to my blog, that is the style, that is the design part. I'll copy the main section that we have for this index page, that is we have the main section, right? I'll copy that. I'll go back to my Angular application. I'll go to the home page. In the HTML page, I'll paste that code that I had just copied. Now if I save that, that should give me the home page, right? So if I go to my browser, you'll see when we are inside the home page. So let me go to the home page. You'll see that we have this, right? So we have the design part. We need to include the image as well. So let me go to the home page. In the home page, we are rendering the image here, that is images/pen. So let me remove that from here. Instead, let's add in the assets folder. Let's add in the images, and inside of that we have the pen.png. If I save that, that should generate the image as well. So now we are basically done with the home page. Now let's actually create the blog page as well. So let me close off the home section. Instead, let's go to the blog, that is blog.html. Now let's go to the design of this, that is the VS Code. Then that let's go to the blog.html. Here as well we have the navigation, we have the footer, and we have the main section. So I'll copy my main section. I'll go to my Angular application. I'll remove everything from here and I'll paste it here. Let's save that, and we should actually have the blog page as well. Similarly, let's go back. Let's go to the contact page, and that let's minimize everything. Let's also copy the main section from the contact page. Then let's go back to the blog, and that is the Angular application. Then let's go to the contact section in this, that is the contact component. Then that in the HTML page, I'll paste everything that I had just copied. Let's save that. And now we should actually be done with the blog page and the contact page as well. The only thing remaining is that we have to actually link this navigation to our page. Like when I click on home, it should actually go to the home page. When I click on blog, it should go to the blog page. And when I click on contact, it should go to the contact page. That means whenever I click on blog, the URL should be /blog, right? So if I go to my navigation, so let's go to the header, let's go to HTML, and that you have the navigation, right? So if you scroll down, you'll have the unordered list. And that you have the list elements, that is the home, blog, and contact. So previously it was blog.html because it was the blog.html page that was being opened. Now instead, let's remove this from here. Let's add in a hash symbol so that we don't actually, go somewhere. Now what I'll do is that I'll add in something here. So it's going to be router link. So I can type in brackets, then router link, then equal that to quotations. In the quotations, you have to initiate square brackets, and then that you have to give the location of where you want to redirect it to. Since I want it to go to /blog, I'll type in /blog. If I save that and if I go to my browser, now if I click on blog, that should actually send me to actually the /blog. That means if I click on blog, it should give out the URL as /blog. So you have to remember one thing here: when you use the router link, you're gonna have /blog. But when you actually go to the router module itself, the URL is not like /blog. That is, the path is not /blog. Instead, it is just blog. But when you have to redirect directly using the link tag, then you have to use /blog or /whatever you want. Similarly, let's copy this router link. So this is the syntax for that. Let's paste it here for the contact as well. Now it's gonna be contact. Similarly, let's paste that for the home section as well. And for this, it's gonna be empty, because empty represents the home page. Let's save that, go to the browser. Now if I click on home, that should send me to home page. If I click on blog, that should send me to the blog page. But if I click on contact, it's not gonna go anywhere because we don't actually have that route, right? So we don't actually have any route named as contact. So now let's go to the routing module. Let's copy this from here. Let's put a comma. Let's add in another literal. Let's add it as contact. Now for the component that has to be loaded, it is going to be the contact component. So I can type in contact, and as you can see here, it is actually showing me some autofill options, and there you can see that this contact component. I can click on enter, and that should add in the component. And also one more thing that is happening here is that whenever you add in any component, you have to actually import that. And by default, when you actually type that in, automatically Angular is going to import that component into the routing module folder, right? So you don't need to actually type this particular thing. You can directly type in contact component, and that should work. Okay, so let me save this, and if I go to the browser, you'll see that if I now click on contact, that should give me contact. If I click on blog, that should give me blog. If I click on home, that should give me the home page. So now we're basically done with adding the design into the Angular application. So let's now see the logic of how we can actually get the data and showcase that data. Alright, so now let's close off this dummy block that we had here previously, and let's also close off the GitHub page. Now, in order to actually showcase the data, we have to actually have the data somewhere else, right? We have to have a database or a location where we actually have the data. That is the post data. There's the post title, post content, and something else, right? So we have to have that data. So now let's actually create that database where we're going to store and update the data. So for that, let me go back to my Angular application, and we don't actually require this anymore. So the design part, you can close it off completely, and we only have the Angular application, right? So now what I'll do is that I'll create a new file inside my app folder, right? So we have the app folder, right? Let me create a new file, and I'll name it as mock-posts.ts, right? So this TS represents the TypeScript file. So TypeScript is a superscript of JavaScript, meaning that inside of TypeScript, you can write TypeScript logic as well as JavaScript logic. So you don't need to worry about the TypeScript logic. Instead, you can directly write in JavaScript and it should work. So in this case, what I'll do is that I'll create a file as named as .ts, because the file should be named as .ts instead of JS. But in this, I'll be writing the JavaScript logic, and in this, what we'll be doing is that we'll be creating an object literal, right? So let me create a new variable, and let's give it as, let's say, posts, and that should be equated to an array of objects, right? So let me create an array. In that, let's add in a new object, right? So this object is going to be the post data, right? So any post that you generally create inside the blog application will have an ID. So this ID could be something like, let's say, 1. Then we're gonna have the title, that is the title of the blog post, 1. Similarly, let's add in the content as well, which is going to be the main content itself. Let me save that. Let's copy this and add in 2 more things. So this time it's going to be 2, and this is going to be 3. So we have 3 blog posts with 3 unique IDs and titles. Now what I'll do is that since we actually have to get this data somewhere, what I'll do is that I'll actually export this, right? So I can type in export, and if I save that, now this data is actually accessible to us anywhere that we want. So this is similar to the return statement that you generally have inside of a function. So you have a function, right? So inside the function, you write in a return statement and some output, right? So whenever you call that function, that return statement will be executed and the data will be given to you. Similarly, whenever I call in this mock-post file, this data will be given to me as the output. So in this way, you can actually access the data. But before doing that, let's actually add some constraints to this. Like, let's say I don't want to have, an ID with a string. The ID should only be a number, and the title should only be a string, and the content should also be only a string. So we have to add some constraints to this, right? Because this is a database and you can't actually add in whatever data you want. You have to have a particular structure that you have to follow. So in order to actually add those constraints, what we'll be doing is that we'll be creating a file called as a model, right? So let me create a new file here and I'll name it as capitalpost.ts, right? So any model file that you create should be named with a capital letter, okay? So it's going to be capitalpost.ts. So a model is something like a database file or a database schema. So in this case, we have the mock-post, right? This is the database for us now. And this actually has to follow a particular schema. And that schema is being defined inside the post.ts. So what I'll do is that I'll create an interface. So it's going to be interface. Then the name of the interface is going to be post. Now let's actually add in the constraints that we want to apply. So in this case, I want to apply a constraint of number for this. So what I'll do is that I'll type in ID. Then I'll be using the TypeScript syntax. So TypeScript, gives us statically typed data types. So it's going to be something like this. So it's going to be ID : space number. So this signifies that the ID can only be a number data type. Apart from that, it should not accept anything else. Then let's type in the title. It's going to be of string. So that is what it's going to be. Then the next one is going to be content. That's also is going to be a string. So this number, string, these two data types are something that we generally see inside of JavaScript as well. So I'll give it as ID, which has to be a number and nothing else. Title is going to be a string and content also is going to be a string. Now we have the interface, right? Since we want to actually use this interface instead of the mock post, then we also have to export this, right? So similar to how we had done here, we'll also export this as well. So it's going to be export. Now I can actually, include this file inside the mock post. So what I'll do is that above this, I'll type in import, and inside the curly braces, I'll type in post, and I want to include that from, and it's going to be ./post, because we actually have the post inside the same directory as this thing. So we have the post and the mock post inside the same directory. So it's going to be ./post. So what I'm doing is that I'm actually importing this post, that is this post interface, from the ./post file, right? So now I have actually imported this. What I'll do is that in order to actually add the constraint to this, similar to how we had added the constraint to the ID called as number by using the TypeScript syntax, similarly we can actually add in the constraint for this particular JavaScript literal as well by typing in the constraint here. So it's going to be post. Once I do this, this particular constraint will be added to this whole object literal. The thing is that we don't have single value as we have here. Instead we have an array of multiple objects, right? So what I'll do is that I'll type in an array symbol, that is square brackets. Now this post will be added to every object present inside of this. Let's say if I type in quotation of 1, that means that this is a string. But as you can see here, there's a red line here saying that type string is not assignable to type number, because ID has a constraint of number which is defined inside the interface, and that constraint is being applied to this particular object literal using this post statement, right? So it should only be a number. Similarly, we also cannot add something else apart from this. Like if I type in test hi or something like that, that's not going to work, because this does not accept test, because this can only have ID, title and content, right? So I can remove it from here and that should be done, right? So in this way you can actually create a database, and that's going to follow a schema that is defined inside the model. This is the model. So in the next video we'll be seeing how we can actually access this data and showcase that in the front end to the user. Alright, so before closing this off, I just wanted to say that this video was made in collaboration with packetcode. So packetcode is a training and placement company located in Hyderabad, and these videos were specifically made for the job guarantee training program that they have going on right now, and that is the full stack Java developer program. So apart from these free video lectures, they also have some premium content as well, like lecture notes, practice and test papers for you to get better at your core concepts. And they also have offline as well as online classes for this program. And they also conduct multiple demo sessions as well. So you can attend any of these demo sessions and understand the things they are teaching as well as their training approach firsthand. So if you're interested, I've provided the website link in the description down below. You can go there and check them out. So that's it for this video, guys. I hope you have liked what you've seen till now. If you did, then please hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe as well. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.